What's up, everybody? This is going to be an initial impressions ramble for the Golden Legion, the 10,000, the Custodes Codex. Something that is very near and dear to me because I've been a Custodian Guard fan for a long time. In the early days of Horus Heresy getting any type of coverage, if you will, actual, genuine, more thorough coverage, is when I really first discovered several things, including the Thousand Sons pre-heresy scheme and look proper, which I became an instant fan of, and the Custodian Guard, which had some really weird Rogue Trader-esque stuff going on, being kind of redone through for the Heresy time period, and seeing them in their golden armored glory, instant fan of them as well. And I never thought anything much of them actually becoming a force, even when we got them in the Burning of Prospero and the Towns of the Emperor box set. I thought, if anything, they'll just be like some weird book in the future that'll make them for allies for the Imperium, and that's about it. But sure enough, here is the Custodes Codex, a full-fledged codex for them, army list-wise. It's not as big army list capability as Tau or Space Marines or anything like that, but it's a full-fledged army list instead of just being a squad or two. And it really feels good. So I really am enjoying that this exists. So I was able to get my hands on the Codex from a gaming store I frequent, and it's the third Codex I own in 8th edition. I like to collect codices too, so I'll be getting more. But I have the Dark Angels Codex, which was my first, as I've made mention of in the past. I have the Grey Knights Codex, and now I have the Custodian Guard Codex. So, first things first, the too long don't care version of this ramble is, initial impression wise, I'm enjoying what I see. I haven't read it cover to cover, page to page yet, but I have done some decent reading on it thus far, and I'm liking what I see. I only have one issue with the army list section of the book, and it's not even a deal breaker. It's just an odd design choice, if this is truly the case and not just an error in editing. But outside of that, I'm liking what I'm seeing. People have been stating on the interwebs, early reports, they're pretty strong, and they're supposed to be. They're Custodes. Now, Custodes are not Astartes, despite a lot of similarities visually and gear-wise. They are Custodes. It's like a different species, you could say. Anyways, the Codex is laid out like any other 8th edition Codex, and 7th or 6th edition Codex if you have any of those. Fluff in the beginning, image gallery in the middle, army section in the back with the rules and everything. If you know nothing about the Custodes, you're going to get a nice, streamlined lesson on them through the Codex. Book 7 for the Horus Heresy from Forge World does a truly fantastic job of really going in depth on the Custodes, and they have a full 30k army list for them as well, which is really cool, with different units on top of units that are very similar, obviously. And that's all well and good, but Forge World stuff can get a bit wordy, and it can lose you a little bit, especially if you're new. You're not getting anything groundbreakingly different or unheard of in the Codex necessarily, outside of things that just didn't exist before, clearly. But it's still very good as a read if you know nothing about the Custodes, aside from the blurb in the main rulebook and the blurb in codices past, such as Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines talking about the Heresy. You're not going to get them talking about the Custodes necessarily, aside from the fact that maybe, Blood Angel stood shoulder to shoulder with the Custodes defending the Palace of Terra. They might say that. But outside of the one blurb they get in the main rulebook, we didn't have much for the Custodes for people to learn about in 40k. Now they got a full Codex. So what you're going to learn about in the Codex is going to be streamlined. You're going to get a good taste for what they are, learning about the different shield hosts and whatnot that they have, such as the Dread host and the I forget what they call the Soul System Defenders, but they're white armored. The Wardens, which are black armored. It's cool to see. It's cool to see that they basically set up a precedent to show you how you can personalize your Custodian Guard force. Either you have the black armored Wardens, the white armored Soul System Custodes, that I forget their actual title. Then you have the golden armored, which is the Golden Legion, and they have different color insets for the shoulder pad and robes and combinations thereof to represent other different shield hosts. They're all Custodes, and it seems like you can rotate through them, which is interesting. So one Custodes could be a Warden, later an Equerry, and so on. But anyways, So there's stuff like that which is wholly new, but nothing groundbreakingly out of nowhere if you know about the Custodian Guard in detail already. Still a nice read. Cool to see a different color scheme stuff. Personally, I would stay gold for the main armor color because they're the Golden Legion. It just feels very fitting. Army list wise, because the fluff, you're gonna like it or you're not gonna like it. You have to determine for yourself. Same thing for the army list stuff, but we have to first understand what we're looking at here is a very specific way of a force, a very decapitating strike army of heroes, literally mini HQs everywhere. That basic Custodes squad, stat line is better than some HQs out there for sure, and equal to like some Space Marine HQs even, which is typically a beefy HQ. So that's impressive, and it only gets more powerful as you get to the elites and HQs. So they're definitely potent. They're going to be a small force, and if you like playing small, highly elite forces, this one's definitely going to fit the bill. And it's not going to play the same like every other one. It's not going to play the same as Grey Knights, for example. And I use that as an example because Stormbolt and Nemesis Force Weapon, not the same as Guardian Spear style equipment, but the way in which you could utilize that equipment is similar. And even there, they're going to play differently. You have different tactics and capabilities of the Grey Knights versus Custodian Guard and so forth. One's a Astartes, one's Custodes, whatever. But with that said, I'm not going to delve too deeply into the fluff here. There'll be videos for that later, I'm sure. But army list wise, what you're looking at is GW's approach to fleshing out the army list without stepping too much on the toes of Forge World. They don't want to step on their own toes necessarily. The fact that we got a jet bike squad is interesting. I guess they do something for like fast attack support style for the Custodian Guard in 40k, and they decided, well, let's make our own jet bikes, whatever, who cares. Even though Forge World does make jet bikes, but we don't have a dedicated fire support squad for them like we do in 30k with Forge World with the Sagittarium squads. So they don't step on the toes too directly. Different style of Terminator squad. The equivalent Terminators of 30k are different from the Alaris Terminators of 40k in war gear, and therefore how they do things and their tactics you would employ for them. So there is that. Now, Forge World will be making a book, supposedly, or when they do make a book, they'll include therein their Custodes, but 40k-ified rules-wise. So they put in lines should you want to kind of look at Imperial Armor, I guess. So you could include Sagittarium and Aquilon Terminators in your 40k force, for fun, because it's Forge World and people object to it usually in tournaments. But anyway, that will happen, but that's not the scope of this codex. So the codex itself is done in such a way to not step on the toes of Forge World's Custodes stuff, while still presenting you a fleshed out army list for the Custodian Guard, and therefore also really emphasizing their particular way of conducting war in this case. So you're going to have strengths and you're going to have weaknesses like any other force. And as long as you understand that going in, understand how to look at it versus how you look at other forces, you can have a better understanding if you will enjoy it or not. If it doesn't meet your playstyle needs and the way you like to play, you're probably not going to enjoy it, even if you like the way they look, and sadly, even if you like their fluff. There are forces that you can like the look of, like the story behind, but they just don't play well for you because your playstyle is too different. And that can happen here too. It can happen anywhere. The one negative I have with this codex is in their army list special rules section for the entire army. Now, if you go Battle Forge, you get a couple extra rules, which is cool. Pretty much every force, it looks like, is doing that. The Dark Angels do that. The Grey Knights do that. So yeah, every force is pretty much getting that, which is great. Really gives you an emphasis to play Battle Forged. The Custodes non-Battle Forged armor-wise special rules that they always have is just Aegis of the Emperor. Now, we've been previewed stuff for them in the past from the Warhammer community site before they got pre-ordered and then up for order now normally. But I can't help but feel like something's missing from their special rules. These guys are the Emperor's personal guard. They answer only to the Emperor. Nobody can order them around. Not even the Primarch Gulliman or the High Lords of Terror. They can only request stuff from them. They can't order them around specifically. And they can deny those requests without any repercussions because they answer only to the Emperor. That's some clout. That's some importance behind them. They have steely resolve and iron will, unbreakable determination. But that's not represented in their rules at all, that I can tell. They don't have anything morale-wise in their rules. to modify or auto pass or whatever that you think they would, given their gravitas of their posts and their station and how crazy superhuman heroes of legend they are, build out to be and is supposed to be. We have Space Marines and other forces, Xenos and otherwise, that can pass morale checks or reroll fail morale checks, but we don't have any of that present, it seems, in the Codex. Now, it could be a complete editing whoopsie and left out that sentence for Aegis of the Emperor, and that could just be errated in. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it's not. It's also entirely possible that in looking at their abilities and keywords and all that stuff that they have listed, that I am just not picking up what they're putting down. Maybe there's something there that implies morale stuff that I'm just not seeing. And it can happen. I've stared at a transfer sheet trying to find a decal on there, not seeing it, and then a couple months later just looking at it quickly and going, oh, it's been there the entire time. So stuff like that can happen. I just don't know if that's the case here. But if you do know more than I in terms of their morale, if they have something affecting their morale, giving them a boost to it or something, but not counting their Vexilla or any type of stratagems, by all means share it in the comment section. But it looks like they don't have anything right now affecting their morale, and I feel that's a weird design choice, a possible oversight on them leaving it out by accident, as GW can do. But not a deal breaker, it just feels like an odd choice given the fluff behind them and their capabilities. Outside of that, though, really liking what I'm seeing here. Models look great, the fluff feels good. Really looking forward to slowly amassing and collecting these guys, because if these guys existed when I first got into 40k, this would be my force, bar none. It's just I like my Dark Angels just fine, but these guys just speak to me in a whole nother level. They're just really cool for me personally. So that's my thoughts on them. I really like them. I'm really looking forward to diving deeper in the Codex and doing future rambles for them, for the Dark Angels and the Grey Knights as well. All that to come when I get time to do so. And some hobby time as well, hopefully, can come on the horizon so I can get to starting to collect them and finishing off that segment Terminator. But anyways, that's basically it. So thanks very much for sticking through this initial impressions ramble. Share your thoughts on the Custodes in the comment section below. Do you like the way they look? Do you not? Would you go with the marble white or the black versus the gold? Whatever the case might be. And until next time, everybody, take it easy.